Welcome back. You're watching The Capital Point, and in studio with me is Natalia Polishchouk, the managing director of Jstwork.com. Jstwork without a U, JST work.
That's right.
Where's the U?
It's missing because we are looking for you.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So tell us a little bit about Jstwork before we get into the conversation of the day. And I know you're very passionate about work and young people and women in the labor force. So I really want to get there, but I want us first to know who you are.
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you so much for this opportunity. You're right. I am so passionate about empowering Africa and melanin. Really, this is why I've come to do.
Melanin. Nobody has ever said melanin in studio.
I literally packed 4 suitcases and came to Kenya. I've never been here before, really just to follow a dream. I'm actually a headhunter, so I've spent the last 15 years really interviewing more than 15,000 people. I've hired and onboarded more than 1,000 across 70 countries. So what I have is a real wealth of understanding, both what job seekers are looking for and what businesses are looking for. So that's what Jstwork does. We have career development programs, also as an outplacement. So if companies are making people redundant, we can support them. I've developed a program that can really guarantee a job within 6 to 12 weeks at the most without compromising anything.
Oh, wow. That's
and I'm not a miracle worker. I just know how it works.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yes.
I must call you back one of the days so we can talk about that, because there's a lot of people facing transitions in the workplace.
Indeed.
And need a lot of guidance, because nobody really prepares you for the eventualities such as that.
Yes.
Anyway, let's get into the discussion of the day. Some of the numbers that I've just read earlier on are scary.
It is.
But it isn't all doom.
It isn't. It isn't all doom. And I think whilst we are seeing, like I get a lot of people saying there is a lot of, how is the Kenyan economy doing? You know, there is a lot of restructuring. Some businesses are closing down, not because the Kenyan economy is doing poorly, it's because of the 4th industrial revolution. How businesses are selling, how we connect with our customers, that's where the biggest changes are. So absolutely, this is a fantastic opportunity for the youth of Africa and Kenya. This is the best time and the best place for them, because they have the most important ingredient, and that is a willingness to learn, an open mind to learn. They still haven't been set in a lot of their ways and a lot of their thinking. So they really are the best right now in the industry. And the other thing I'd love to get people to understand is just because you are based in Kenya, that is no longer relevant in today's globalization. Where you are located versus where you are providing a service, where these can be completely irrelevant. So globalization means every Kenyan youth, every Kenyan employee is a global employee, not just a Kenyan employee.
Wow, that's fantastic. So let's just go into the future of work now. And I'm just curious about what your thoughts are. If somebody asks you, what is the future of work? What is your description of it?
Actually, the future of work means our roles actually will become far better. The repetitiveness and the sort of mundane tasks will be removed. So actually the future of jobs will be far more engaging, will not be as administrative or transactional. So the roles will actually use a lot more set of skills. What I would like to do is really give a few examples. It's not necessarily that as consumers have changed. So the example is, imagine I went to buy this jacket 20 years ago. As a business owner, I would have needed to hire somebody who was reliable, who was customer focused, who could do stock taking, etc. Today, I'm buying the same jacket from the same business owner, but I'm doing it online. What kind of people do I need to now hire? So it's not just a doomsday, it's that we are shifting how we consume. So you said the millennials, it's true, the millennials make 75% of actually in the next 5 years by 2025, 75% of all of the decision makers and the biggest sort of workforce are millennials. And they are driven by different priorities. You ask a millennial, would you like to have more pension or more holiday or airtime? So the way we motivate them and the way we retain them. But just to give you, it's not just the type of jobs that have changed, but the type of contracts that we are given. Forbes predicts that 40 to 50% of all global employees will be freelancers. So each one of us needs to start working like a freelancer, so that we are not just looking to go to an employer Monday to Friday and get sort of paid from that point of view. So because the type of contracts are shifting, and gig economy is one of the things that is definitely going to be driven by, especially not just the millennia, but generation Z, the ones that are coming up now, the ones that are graduating. They have apparently an 8-second attention span. So actually the gig economy, so the gig economy will actually even include gamification, where questions are read for you to be able to retain you. But
that wouldn't that like slow people down a little bit?
We work very differently. Millennials and the Generation X work very differently. They feel very empowered. They don't feel like they need to go to university to learn tons of stuff. They pick up, they go on the internet, they learn a few things and they implement it. They're much, much more technologically savvy. So they just pick it up. And what you also said, which was so important, is skill sets. You see, 20 years ago, when businesses hired, they hired more on IQ. Today, we hire on EQ. EQ means emotional intelligence. So we look for hard skills, but we hire soft skills. And what the millennials are also doing is the traditional kind of hierarchical type of role, where I am now the CEO or an MD or I'm a C-level, which a job title would have brought a kind of power with a position, that has been reduced, is much, much more flat structured. So the fact that there will be not employers that are constantly employing you, and that you are now having to sell your time, this is where it comes into skill sets. It's all about skill sets.
I love that you're taking us in that direction, because I've listened to you speaking before about the CV and the place of the CV in the future. And I just want you to touch on that a little bit. Because where we stand today, as you say, you know, a lot of these millennials are not interested in going to school. So where is the place of the CV?
I'm so glad you asked this question. Those that know me know that I am not a big fan of the curriculum vitae. First of all, your curriculum, your CV sits on your laptop, which means if you are applying to manage your career, whether you're a young person or somebody at a senior level, if you are going to manage your career through a CV, it means you pull it out of your inbox, of your laptop, and then you click and apply, and apply. Now, by the time you've clicked and applied, sometimes up to 500 people have clicked and applied for the same role. And, you know, reading a CV takes a long time. And more importantly, all of the stuff on the CV does not have what I call visual language. You are literally just giving me a bunch of responsibilities, and I have no idea what are you doing, 5%, 20%, etc. So even as it is set up. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that all these CVs are analog. So when you click and apply and 500 of the people have applied, it is never a human that reads these. It is only computers, and they're called application tracking tools. Some of them are not very smart, which means they will only read very specific fields, but the majority are very good. So you need to have a digital CV. What does a digital CV actually mean? It's not that complicated. So when I'm searching, or when any business is searching for a skill, they will only search for hard skills, not soft skills. Hard skills is, you know, budgeting, social media planning, project management. Soft skills are I am passionate, I am driven, I am motivated. These are not words that I would use. So when I'm searching for keywords, hard keywords. All you have to do is repeat your keywords again and again and again and again. So if I search for the keyword project manager, the person who has that keyword spread the more times throughout their CV will come at the top of the search and will be shortlisted.
That's brilliant. Okay.
Yes. I'm not a miracle worker when I say I can guarantee most people a job very quickly. It's only because I show you how to actually go out there and get yourself headhunted and found. So don't use the CV. Use an online platform like LinkedIn, for example. And if you're a creative, Go on Instagram, go on Twitter, do your comms, go on Facebook, but I'm still going to come back to LinkedIn to look at you and communicate with you.
All right. So you've looked at it at the point of view of somebody looking for a job. So during the day, I moonlight as a general manager of Metropole TV, for instance, and looking at this data, I'm asking myself, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, what's a newsroom going to look like? Will my autocue lady, Dory, over here, will she still have her job? Will my news director still have his job?
Yes.
Will I, as a news anchor or a general manager, still have a job, or will they all be automated?
Very good
How
question.
do we look at this?
There is a huge, absolutely, I can help dissect where the automation will happen. So anything that is machine operated, for example, cars, drivers will actually disappear. Tesla today is only producing self-driving cars. Would you like to have a self-driving car that would park itself, fuel itself, drive you anywhere you want? Nobody is tired. Exactly.
I have trust issues.
Actually, technology will save you far more than human error.
Well, that's
so
true.
the idea is looking at anything that requires the human to operate it. So anybody like anything that is repetitive, so supermarkets where stocking shelves, etc. Cashiers where all they're doing is beeping. So any job that has a very process about it will actually be eliminated. So the kind of, this is actually a little bit sounds in Kenya that is so far away. It's all happening in Americas or in the westernized world, where we have restaurants where there is no waiters or waitresses. You simply order and the food actually arrives. So anything that will require humans to operate it, we can replace a machine to do that. But then who is going to operate the machines? Like, who's going to fix the machines? So the type of jobs that are coming up, it sounds a little bit, but some of the jobs are, for example, augmenting human bodies. So what does that mean? You see, right now, when our eyes are not fully working, we can get laser and get full 20/20 vision. If our knees are no longer working, we can put stuff to make the knees work, the hips. This is only going to grow and change. We can have hearts, so we can be able to actually live a lot longer. Things like raw material management is also going to be really big. Why Africa is going to grow in manufacturing? You need raw material, so you need to know where is limescale, how do you dig it, how do you move it versus wood. So Africa's, because it is the youth of the world, this is where a lot of manufacturing will actually start to take place. Manufacturing jobs are other areas. What is influencing the changes in the manufacturing industry? If you look at 3D printers, did you know that a 3D printer can even print you human organs, bones and tissues? It can print you plastic bottles.
Even a house.
It can print you, so literally print everything that you need. That alone is going to shift a lot of things. Drones, that whole sort of logistics, getting packages dropped from one place or another. The drones are actually going to be able to take a lot over that. Then who is going to fly the drones? Who is going to fix the drones? These are the jobs that will take over. 5G is another huge technology that is going to absolutely shift the way we communicate. 3D reality. 3D reality needs all of it to be built. That is another area that is upcoming. But for the young people, what I would say is this. The fastest global trend right now, growing at over 1,000%, is home working. Cisco chooses up to 90% of their employees, where possible, to work from home. Not only have they saved $500 million in real estate, but they've increased productivity. In that time you are traveling to or from, you're working from home. There are so many jobs that are home-based. What's to stop you from actually doing that?
I want us to talk about that a little bit, but just before we get there, when you were talking about this new jobs of the future, I remember last week at a conference I went to, and one of the new jobs was a super baby designer. So basically...
Genetics?
Genetics.
Not just babies, dogs as well. They love their pets' genetics, yes.
So I want a baby with blue eyes,
yes,
blonde hair,
yes,
can run like Kipchoge.
Yep.
And there's somebody who can, you know, recreate the genes like that.
Absolutely.
Although I must say, you know, it always feels like, you remember when the dot-com boom happened in 2000? Some of us had never seen a computer.
No.
But it seemed so far away that it was nothing, you know, we couldn't relate to it. And some of the things we're seeing are things we can't really relate to yet. But the gig economy is
It's
right here with us.
Actually, what I would say is that it will come far, far faster than you think.
That's true.
When Uber arrived, literally Uber is the biggest taxi company that doesn't own a single taxi. TripAdvisor is the biggest hotel company that doesn't own a single. Amazon, one of the biggest companies, do they own any products? No. So this is where understanding that how we are actually consuming anything to do online, it's critical. So anybody who is selling products has to sell online. We are using apps substantially. Anything to do with app development, Perl, Python, big data. Every one of us that takes a phone and you flick, you are producing. The beauty is this: Kenya has the highest mobile penetration, and the numbers you showed earlier, Kenya isn't even at a higher level than South Africa to be able to. So whilst we're thinking a lot of these things are happening, what will happen is these businesses or these sort of industry shifts, when they come and they literally happen so fast that it is an exponential growth. So it gives no opportunity for people to adapt. So what I say is start looking at trends locally. We know that millennials prefer to use the phone. What's going to happen to the laptop? You see, we are not going to be more using. All we need to do is look at our own immediate consumer behavior here and then start to. Many of us don't need to go to banks. We have fintechs. We have M-Pesa. You don't need to carry money. So now we have a lot of banks merging, banking industry shifting. That's because we are no longer requiring the services as they were. And then we have players like Tala that's come in and literally in 6 months has made profits that most banks would envy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's. I'm not sure if I've answered
No,
that enough.
you have, but I'm just wondering, if I'm a business person or an entrepreneur or a manager, how do I structure contracts around gigs and around the gig economy? And you know, we're seeing some of the multinationals locally already working on flexi time, where you know somebody can work remotely.
Yes.
But how, as a HR professional who's looking, probably watching the show and wondering, where do we start? What would you say?
You know, it is not an easy challenge right now, simply because we have up to 5, but predominantly 4 different generations. Baby boomers are the ones that are still to some extent in charge, and they don't get on as well with millennials. So both as a business owner or as a HR that's supporting the human capital, it is about getting a flexible benefit. In order to retain your employees, it's not just about, especially the what is 50% to 70% of the workforce. What they want to do is they want to be acknowledged, they want recognition. They are not just going to go because you have a senior job title that I cannot bring my worth on the table. So what we are having for, not just for HR specifically, it's very difficult to have one package benefit that fits all. You have to make it more structured and more flexible. The more you do that, the more you are going to tap into some of the best talents. And businesses who are not operating online or are not operating competitively actually will die very, very quickly. They will not be able to survive in the longer run. And what are the skills that we are looking for? You see, can I just take 1 minute?
Absolutely.
Our grandparents, when they started to work, it did not matter whether they liked who they worked for, whether they liked the job that they did. It was so important to have that family security so that they can afford to put their children through education. So this is our grandparents. Our parents, this was the age of information. What they wanted is a standard of living. So that every house has a television, so that every house has a fridge. Because 20 years ago that was not, or 30 years ago. So now that we have, even in the poorest areas in Nairobi, you will still find people who have televisions, who have fridges and microwaves and etc. So now this phase is a quality of life. What I don't want to do is wait till the end of my life and then start enjoying it. This is where there is that life-work balance coming in. So I want an environment where I am a culture that I enjoy, a manager that appreciates me. So when you have traditional businesses that have not shifted in their minds, they are not attracting the best talent. And Kenya also has a cultural element of hierarchy, you know, if somebody's your elder and if you are a lady, don't be too loud, or all sorts of different things. And millennials are crossing a lot of these bridges, and they can be perceived sometimes as self-entitled, not loyal, because I have given you all of this, why are you not staying? You cannot put golden handcuffs, you cannot force millennials to stay. They work because they are passionate and they want to make an impact, and they believe that they can learn things to move it forward. So I would say to any business, human capital, human resource is your most important tool. So understand and create kind of benefits, or kind of make sure that the flexibility, if that's important. And if you don't have that, if you don't want to have a work-life flexibility in your company as a culture, which sometimes may be perfectly acceptable depending on the actual industry, then you have to make sure that you hire people that are not going to come in with that expectation.
How about governments? What would you recommend, or what advice would you have in terms of setting up policies that will support the kind of work culture that we're going to see over the next couple of years?
Absolutely. I would love to see the government work far, far closer with the education establishment. I feel that what the cost of education is incredibly high, and we have so many young graduates that still don't have the actual skills that many businesses need. So if I were to urge the government to do anything, look at how India has done it. You can go into any street and there is hotspots of education, and it's all self-learning. We don't always need to go online. We have to empower the youth of Kenya to learn technology, whether it is cybersecurity, whether it is, and you don't need to go to university. You have YouTube, you have Udemy, you have even MIT lectures are available for free. So we need to give them more internet access, a lot more internet. Government needs to make sure people can access, because through that they can then learn. And the other thing I'd love the government to do is make sure that our youth understands how global they are, that there are so many businesses that are looking to hire young, dynamic, smart individuals. Like I said, in Japan, 70% of their population is over the age of 65. This is not a trend just in Japan. Now in China, for everyone working, up to 5 to 6 are retired. Why? Their one-child policy. So there is a lot of shifts, and China is no longer the cheap place to manufacture. This is the place to manufacture. So I would love to see more training for the young, for just technology, social media, digital media. What is Hootsuite? What is MailChimp? How do you communicate? How do you create videos? How do you edit? All of us need it. Everyone selling a product has to sell it online. Yeah.
As we wind up, Natalia, when you engage with HR and business leaders, are these conversations that are taking place in boardrooms today?
They are. And usually what you find is that whenever the bottom line is affected, the decision makers sit up very well and say, what do we need to do? But you do find there is a lot of awareness in HR, because what they have been doing has no longer been working for them, but also how innovative is that business and how fast is it growing. The businesses, they can empower. I find that a lot of Kenyan businesses are SMEs. And SMEs, what happens is they are owned by one or two person, and as such they don't really see the value of human capital as such, so they need to train them.
I've been given 5 more minutes, and since you've mentioned SMEs, I think that is a perfect conversation to have.
Yes.
They're more versatile, they're more adaptable compared to the big organizations, and of course to government. What should SMEs be focusing on currently?
One of the things that I find SMEs do is their recruitment. They tend to recruit in the same circles. Who do you know, who has referred to you, etc. And also what they do is they hire reactively. So they wait until something has opened up and is a real big need. Because you are a small company and each one person potentially leaving can have quite a big impact, what I recommend is that you start recruiting proactively. What do I mean by that? Even if you don't have a headcount or a requirement, I want each SME to commit every single month. I will interview for 1 day or for a half a day. Why? Because the more you interview and the more you look at a variety of different skills, don't be siloed into thinking that somebody who has a certain qualification will have everything you need and somebody who has not. So don't stereotype. And the second thing is, I would say, is give them a week's trial where possible. Do more untraditional interviewing. Don't spend 1 hour just questioning them. Bring them into the team. Give them a task. Really see how do they think and how do they strategize. But more importantly, don't be afraid to take somebody who looks confident. And the other thing is to retain your staff. You know, we do pay less as SMEs because we are very sensitive to our bottom line. But at the end of the day, you can find so many other things to recognition, monthly basic rewards. You can do so many things to make your employees feel valued, appreciated, even sending them on an online course, giving them a half a day off, just so that they don't feel like, you know, you are taking everything as an employee. And as an SME, you can't lose the talent that you've trained.
How does an SME hire for the future, 10 years from now? I know the majority of SMEs today, and as you've correctly mentioned, look at the bottom line first, are reactionary because, oh God, my accountant has left, I need a new accountant tomorrow. How do we hire for the future?
It's very, you see, it depends firstly on the industry, but what you will find is that most of the products that we buy will become self-service buying. What do I mean by that? When I go onto Amazon, I buy everything myself. So the way we sell has changed. We sell small and lots of, right? So hiring skills that will create online branding, all of your marketing, anybody that falls under the umbrella of marketing are some of your most important. They will almost be the new Salesforce. When you look at your Netflix, when you look at all of these big services that are growing as the top employers, when they sell, they don't sell as they used to. It's sold small amounts, and we as the buyer buy it directly. We don't have that middle person anymore. That's what's getting removed. That's what Amazon has done, is removing the middle person, allowing us to go on there. So in terms of the future, because businesses will be exponential, so right now we've got everybody who is driving cars. When self-driving cars come in, which we are thinking is going to take ages, it's not. When they do come in, all of a sudden, all drivers will be eliminated. What are they going to do then? But to answer your question, businesses need to plan and identify really good quality individuals. So they will hire more consultants at a higher level. They will go into the gig economy and actually utilize consultants on a global basis that will do small amounts of work. So the companies will be much leaner, and the people they will hire will be core. What I mean by that is they will drive the business substantially. So your administrators, your staff that just are the supporting functions, those are the ones that you will no longer see. You know, you can get Siri can book your appointments. Siri can go and phone somebody on your behalf. So there's so much changes happening through that. So the teams will reduce. Also, they are much more likely to hire skill sets globally. They will no longer just hire locally and a person to physically come into the office. How the work will be delivered and the location of the person delivering it versus who is going to consume it are completely different.
Wow. Natalia, thank you so much. You must come back on this show or some of our other shows as well, because it's a conversation that cannot end in half an hour. But thank you so much for making time.
My pleasure. It's been my pleasure. As I said, I'm very passionate about this.
So. We can tell. We can tell. Thank you so much. Natalia Polishchouk, the Managing Director of Jstwork. That's JSTWORC. You can follow them on Twitter, Jstwork, @jstwork.com. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have a conversation on the state of youth unemployment in Kenya, the opportunities they're in, and the challenges currently facing that particular space. Don't go too far.